Hi, it's November 12th, 2011, and by command performance, is this camera okay? No, it fell. High tech here, very high tech. By command performance, at least 2 people have asked me for information on buying this terrible book that I did years ago. And I've encouraged them, please don't buy it, because there are 2 editions out, one by Velvet, also known as Creation Books, and the other by Green Candy Press. I never approved the galleys for either of these books. I was never paid. I don't get royalties. I've had fights with them for more than 10 years about this. And apparently, well, I did write to Amazon.com, and I have a couple of videos up on YouTube about this. I've asked them since last year, don't sell the book. There's, litigation involved about this, and now they're selling it for like $45 a copy. It's disgusting. So I do have the original manuscript on some obsolete Mac diskettes, as well as a printout of the book and the photos, which they never used originally. And I hope to really find a real publisher. I've written part of a sequel to this book. The title for this was supposed to be Bizarre Life, but Velvet wanted I Was For Sale, because that was a title they had for a book by Patty Powers, and that book never happened, so they had a title that the publisher liked, and so that became the title that I used, that I had to use. The sequel is called The Finishing School, in parentheses, Life is a School Which Finishes You Off, and there are many sample chapters, and there's an outline for it. And I'd like to do an authorized edition of this book with some of the finishing school in it and the photos and stuff. So if you know anybody who really wants to publish it, ask them to contact me. This is me on the cover. I didn't approve of this. I did give him the photo. The photo is by Carter Stevens, who's still alive, and a very nice person. And I couldn't even find my copy of the book. So I borrowed my husband's copy. He's never read this. He doesn't look at my clips. He doesn't read any of my writing. He doesn't go to any of my art shows. He doesn't look at any of the museum catalogs I'm in or anything. He's just not into it. It's kind of sad, because we used to do some writing and art projects together when we were first together, but he doesn't have the interest in carrying on with that. About the author, LisaFalour is American. She received a BS degree from Hunter College, City University of New York in 1982, and an MBA degree from Baruch College, City University of New York in 1989. She also attended or was enrolled at Kent State University in Ohio, Antioch College in Ohio, Brooklyn College in New York, and l'Università di Firenze in Firenze, Italia. Formerly trained as a graphic artist, Lisa self-published 2 zines for many years, Modern Girls and Bikini Girl. Her artwork is in the permanent collections of many museums around the world, and she's also been active in film, video, and music projects. Her writing was first published around 1975. Since then, she has written for, I just came up with what I could remember. This is a funny list of publications. Teenage Rampage, the East Village Eye, OP, Impulse, the American Book Review, Ungawa, Wet, Black Ice, Batteries Not Included, and Gray Areas, to name only a few. She has appeared in at least 5 literary anthologies, among them Mondo Barbie, St. Martin's Press, 1993, Unbearables, Otono Media Semiotext, 1995, Best of Temp Slave, Garrett County Press, 1997, Black Ice, University of Colorado, 1998. That's different from the magazine Black Ice. Different things. And Guilty Pleasures, Masquerade Books, 1999. Lisa began her bondage modeling career in 1978 in New York City and has only recently retired. Those ball gags are just too hard on my dental work, she says. So this was published in 2000. And there's a picture of me in bondage that Henry Alter took and I dedicated the book to him. I'm sorry it was such a problem, this book, and that it's unauthorized and everything. But anyway, this is the introduction. I started writing when I was about 8 years old, little mystery stories about 2 pages long. I would have written longer stories, but I ran out of energy very quickly. My mother was the person who encouraged me to write. She also advised me to keep diaries, which I have done for most of my life. I have a huge collection of dusty journals dating back to the 1960s, and I find it difficult to read them. They are just too painful to look at. When I see what a good little girl I was, so full of optimism and fascination with life, it tears at my heart. At 41, my spirit is broken, I am alcoholic, and my bouts of depression are now lasting years at a time. I wish I could meet the little girl I was and sit and have a long talk with her about all the ugly things she was going to see in the world. I wish so passionately I could have had some means to see into my future, so that I could have avoided some of the terrible, terrible mistakes I have made. But we all wish that, don't we? And of course, such things are not possible unless we have very good astrologers. I met 2 good ones. The first told me I would self-destruct. The second told me it was very important for me to write about my experiences with the dark, hidden, and dirty side of life I would encounter. I feel almost certain I will not live to see the publication of this book. I also feel very certain that telling the things I tell in this book will have some sort of positive social impact. Somewhere. At least I hope they will. So I guess both astrologers were right. I wish I could feel happier about my destiny, but instead I can only pour another glass of wine to try to stop my hands from shaking. My real name is LisaFalour. Of course, I am incredibly fearful about revealing my true identity, but I also feel it is very important not to hide behind pseudonyms. And I've used a lot of pseudonyms over the years. I've often used male pseudonyms. So when people say, well, what did you write? It's like, I don't even remember what name I used. It's all over the place. I am sure my family, the few friends I have left, and my past and future employers will take a negative view of this book project. I certainly do. It's ugly. It's not good writing either. Not that I've ever claimed to be a good writer. I have been involved in a lot of sick, strange things in my life, and am absolutely compelled to tell about them. Not to brag and not to titillate, but to try to save young people from making the mistakes I did, and to get older people to think about why foolish souls like myself fall into sin. Most of the people I've met in my dirty little voyages have been driven to their acts of self-degradation for one of 2 reasons: no self-respect and/or economic necessity. As time goes by and I'm more and more beaten down by the trials of daily existence, I believe more and more firmly that each person who turns a blind eye to ugly realities they'd rather not face is sinning in one of the worst ways possible. And yet, to be a crusader for good is to let yourself in for nothing but trouble. So what to do? Don't ask me. If I had the answers, I wouldn't be sitting here in this poorly lit room in suburban Paris, France, unwashed and essentially unemployable, spending much of my spare time reading true crime books and considering the most efficient methods of committing suicide. If it makes you feel better to point your finger at me and say, she's fucked up, I suggest you go and wash that finger, because chances are it's very, very dirty indeed. I was born in 1957 in Ohio, USA. I don't know very much about my family, except that I may be related by marriage to inventor Charles Kettering. I guess not knowing much about one's family is extremely American. Our history doesn't go back very far, does it? I don't have an accurate memory myself, but mine is a long one and goes back to before the time I knew how to walk or talk. My parents said a lot of things around me I am sure they didn't think I could understand, and hearing these things gave me a rather twisted outlook on life. My parents were fairly cold and critical toward me, so I failed to bond with them, and also I have very low self-esteem. My parents are surely not, however, completely to blame for my deep-seated failure to be able to see wrong from right. I have a dark side, which I believe would often prevail no matter in which circumstances I had been raised. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my parents gave me a child's record player, and when my mother's mother was babysitting me, her version of which was to drink scotch, smoke Chesterfields, and watch television, and leave me to my own devices as long as I didn't break anything around the apartment, she turned a blind eye on my habit of raiding my father's record collection. My favorite song was by Eartha Kitt, I Want to Be Evil. I memorized the words and would dance around the bedroom I shared with my little brother, and would dream of growing up and running off and doing bad things. My grandma would haul her big ass out of the chair in front of the telly, as she called it. No, she was not British, she was Slovenian, and come back into the bedroom and watch me dance around and sing, and would cheer me on. Then she'd light up another Chesterfield, top up her cocktail, chuckle very, very happily, and shuffle back off to look at the telly some more. She loved westerns. When my parents got home, I'd have the Eartha Kitt record put back in its place and pretend to be very occupied with my Barbie doll, and Grandma would say I had been a perfect angel. If my parents had bothered to look closely, they would have seen that I enjoyed dressing up my Barbie doll as a slut. Okay, I'll make part 2 next.